thing that we're announcing here is something called Composable Cloud. You can see the press release today on that. What we're doing is a couple of cool things. We have customers continuing to their transformation to support digital transformation. So underneath that usually is some sort of cloud transformation, and more and more customers realize they've got to implement some sort of hybrid cloud environment. Meanwhile, we've been working on helping them a lot with their private cloud environments with something called Synergy and Composable, and we've talked about that in these sessions for quite some time. And this Composable Cloud takes what we were doing on the composable front on private cloud, as well as some of the work we've been doing on the hybrid front, OneSphere and some other technologies, and brings those together into a hybrid cloud platform. So what we announced has two primary vectors, if you will. The first is we're making the Synergy value proposition available on our rack servers now. In order to do that, we needed a little bit of technology. We had built, if you're going to do composability, you need to be able to deploy compute storage and fabric in a fluid kind of way, in a dynamic way. So be able to access compute storage and fabric. And when we built Synergy, since we had the whole chassis under our control, the networking was built into it. So we had a composable fabric built into Synergy. We did our own. When we decided we wanted to do this value proposition on rack servers, we needed a little bit more, either reinvest to kind of build the Synergy one, or actually acquire some technology to accelerate that, and we chose to acquire some technology. We announced that at a prior Discover. It was called Plexi, was the company we acquired. Now we call it Composable Fabric, but basically it's the key technology that allows you to do cloud scale networking in a flat kind of way, where the top of rack switches communicate directly with each other rather than requiring leaf spine and a hierarchy and a whole bunch of expense and things like that. Just like with Synergy, we even removed the top of rack switches, and basically the nodes communicate to each other directly. Now we have a top of rack switch, but it runs our Plexi software, or the Composable Fabric software, and allows us to deliver under the same API, which was another piece of the definition of composability. So under OneView control, we now do compute storage and fabric management across rack servers, with storage put into those rack servers. So that's a huge development for us. What's interesting is that would be a big enough announcement, but we decided we had enough demand from customers to do even more than just make it available on rack. They wanted more out of their Synergy deployments from an integration point of view on doing hybrid cloud. And so we also took the opportunity to not only expand to rack, but announce a composable cloud strategy that brings together not just the fabric stuff that I just told you about, but also our InfoSight platform, plus OneView, plus OneSphere, all under one umbrella, with simple APIs to that whole thing, and ship that as a unit, as a hybrid cloud platform, ready to manage your on-prem environments, ready to do compose workloads into those environments, and with OneSphere be able to do that into public cloud environments. So that's the big announcement. That's kind of the elements. Unpacking that a little bit, I talked a little bit about the Composable Fabric thing. You know about OneView. It's that single API engine. We call it the engine of composability. That's where you access all of the flexing of resources of compute, storage, and fabric. It's where you compose workloads across the different elements of the infrastructure. So you know about OneView. The thing I mentioned in there was InfoSight. We got that through the Nimble acquisition. It really is a powerful tool bringing AI, and I'm sure you've had probably another session with the storage guys on that. But the big news for us is it's not just about storage anymore. It's now available on Synergy, on ProLiant Rack, and therefore available inside of our Composable Cloud offering. It also plugs into OneView, so you can use the same management paradigm to manage your InfoSight. So pretty excited about that. And that's the InfoSight part. So we've covered Composable Fabric, OneView, InfoSight. The final piece of that is OneSphere, and I have Wayland, the GM for our OneSphere business here. We also have OneSphere integrated tightly with all those offerings. OneSphere's been enhanced over the past year to now. We just announced enhanced container as a service capability, bare metal as a service capability, as well as integrated governance and compliance activities on OneSphere. That governance and compliance thing, it's interesting. We've been talking to a lot of customers about, hey, what kind of special orchestration of workloads and this and that can we do? And they've said, hey, hold off on that for a minute. Just help me do governance and compliance. If you could help me with that. We learned from CTP and Red Pixie, our folks who are helping customers, are advising customers and implementing cloud architectures for our customers. They said customers struggle with that like crazy. There's about 1,500 different rules and compliance checks that need to be run on your cloud installation, and so we've now automated that stuff underneath OneSphere. So enhancements in each of the individual areas, and then enhancements together to be able to offer this thing that we for a long time had just called composable rack as kind of the thing that we were trying to deliver, which basically meant synergy on rack servers. But now we've made that a bigger notion, and it's composable cloud. So it's integration of not only the software necessary to run on servers, but also the vertical stack software to be able to run your hybrid cloud environment. So that's a big set of announcements. I was kind of thinking back on prior Discovers, and we've had, a real track record of boldly announcing, for a while, the first few that we did like this, we were talking about things that were coming in the future. Now we're talking about things that we're actually delivering, and those things are right on with the vision we set, 3-4 years ago of composability. That's what customers want. They want to be able to dynamically associate their infrastructure and their workloads and do that in a way that saves them cost and saves them manpower in terms of having to administrate all of this stuff. And we've been continuing to build on that composable vision. You'll see more if you attend the sessions here at Discover about that composable vision and how we've expanded that beyond just infrastructure into cloud workloads, workload orchestration, and we really are very clearly known as the leader of this in the industry, and now you're seeing other vendors kind of pile in and say, hey, we've got now a composable looking thing. I would say the industry's largely still a couple years behind us in the whole area of composability. We see it as a natural evolution point, like the evolution of hyperconverged. When it kind of grows up, it wants to be composable as well. So that's something that's very powerful for us and core to our strategy going forward. So that kind of talks about the announcements from my group, how that fits into the bigger picture of HPE. You'll hear Antonio talk about our edge to cloud strategy for the company. I won't go into a lot of details there, but if you imagine the capabilities we have with our Aruba wireless and our edge computing devices that we're now shipping, our Edgeline platforms, we can look at those somewhat as yet another cloud, if you will, and you look at how we're doing hybrid cloud management on the hybrid IT side, and you can see all of this stuff coming together in the long term. So it ties to the longer strategy, and we think we can help customers in a unique way all the way from edge to cloud, and all this stuff is an extension of the things we're doing on composable as well as the things we're doing in Aruba wireless, and it's a pretty powerful story. So look forward to you seeing some of that a little bit later. So that's what we're doing. Thought I'd open it up to questions. There's one more topic Chris reminded me of, and that is you'll hear us talk about, customers are struggling in several ways in kind of their implementation of hybrid cloud, and honestly, even as they start to delve into the edge, and they're a technology, which I just talked about a lot of our technology, then there's a skill and people kind of gap, and then there's an economic angle as well. And I talked a lot about technology, but in another one of the groups, one of my peers, Pradeep, manages our Point Next services offering, and there's a couple really key things there. One is around GreenLake, where we're delivering as a service to our customers, where we'll pay by the drink, if you will, pay per use, whether it's backup or HANA or whatever capabilities we have, and we'll offer that GreenLake as a service capability on the Composable Cloud as well. But it goes beyond just being able to offer as a service, which is kind of an economic engine, helps customers shift kind of the way they're spending to more of a pay-per-use kind of model. We also have, through our HP Financial Services, ways to help fund and finance, do buybacks of equipment, help them upgrade, help them do modernization without having to, just add additional budget. They can kind of take their original budget, do some buybacks of their hardware, and be able to fund this transition. So that is a kind of helping them with the economics of transformation. Then there's the people/skill gap thing, and what we announced at Discover in June is something called GreenLake Hybrid Cloud. And what that is we're offering now for customers who are in a cloud transformation to meet them wherever they are and help them with that transformation. Many are stuck, many are struggling with that, and basically bring our technology, things like the Composable Cloud that I talked to, including OneSphere, to bear and offer them cloud as a service. We'll come and do it for you. If you want us to help you with advising on what applications to move, where they should land, on-prem, off-prem, if you want us to actually implement that for you, if you want us to run your hybrid cloud environment, we'll do that for you. And that's our GreenLake Hybrid Cloud offering. So all of that is tightly coupled, and certainly a lot of the work that we're doing on OneSphere and on our platforms is to make sure that we can offer those services on top of the infrastructure for our customers. More and more customers are just saying, hey, will you just do this for me? And so that's an area of significant growth for us. So anyway, those are my thoughts. So let's open it up to questions and have some conversation here. Yes, first up.
Yeah, Rick, you mentioned
hold on, we're going to get you a mic, I think. Oh, is it Wayland? We can share if...
Hi, Rick. Dana Gardner. You mentioned that the industry is a few years behind you all. As you're struggling to bring composability and consumability to more forms of cloud, or all forms of cloud, is what happens now in the market sort of a countervailing force? I'm thinking of IBM buying Red Hat. I'm thinking of VMware still being sort of an unknown entity in Dell. Is it the stock? Is it the trading stock? Is it completely neutral or not? I'm thinking about a change of leadership now at Google Cloud. It seems that what's going on in the market is more confusion even than solidification. So do you have a better position than the alternatives in terms of how to rationalize all this?
Yeah, so I'll make a couple of comments. I think some of the recent moves don't alarm me at all from a strategic kind of point of view, and I'll tell you kind of why. I mean, we're still shipping more servers with VMware than anybody else on the planet, including anybody else, and so that partnership is critical to us. It's critical to VMware. Not a concern. It's very strategic. We're not worried that whatever announcements or tracking stock or this or that or IPO or all of that stuff. That business needs to be successful, as does ours. We're partnering as well as ever, so no concerns there. Similarly, the Red Hat move with IBM, quite honestly, we're big partners with Red Hat, always have been, and will continue to do so. We're not really competing directly with IBM in a lot of spaces of composable infrastructure or any of that, so we don't really see that as a threat. We see them as a great partner, and will continue to be so. So not really worried in that, but it gives me the opportunity to kind of bring up a different angle, which is really, you kind of hinted toward things consolidating or getting more locked in, maybe siloed stacks or things like that. That is a real emphasis for us is we're not doing that. When we offer something like Composable Cloud, we're not saying, okay, now you have to buy into some PaaS offering that we have combined with some exact cloud offering that we have linked tightly to one view, and it's our stack, our way or the highway kind of thing. That is not our philosophy at all. In fact, what's cool about Composable Cloud is it's the first and only open hybrid cloud platform. And what I mean by that is, at the core, we've built everything with APIs so you can use the best of the industry tool set. So like OneView, we support, it's got a super simple API that consolidates a whole bunch of sausage making that's kind of going on underneath, presents those as a simple one-line API in most cases. You can attach that to Chef, Puppet, Ansible, SaltStack, whatever tool you kind of want. Similarly, we're not, when it comes to container management, good with Red Hat and OpenShift, good with Docker, we're good with, all of that stuff. We're building a platform to plug in partners, not building a stack to lock out partners. That's a real philosophy for us, and we're going to continue to do exactly that regardless of who buys who in whatever space. So very important. That's at the lower levels and kind of deployment kind of angles. If you look at the upper levels and then look at which clouds, you'll see some people saying, okay, well, our cloud partner is Azure, and that's our cloud partner. For us, we're partnering across all clouds. That's our plan. We've got in OneSphere today, we have both AWS and Azure implemented, but we won't stop there. And we even have Cloud 28 cloud partners. And as we see demand from customers in other clouds, we're just going to add support for that. So our philosophy is customers are trying to do digital transformation and cloud transformation. They're not asking us for a walled garden. They're asking us for us to help them either with people or with technologies. When we help them, they may come with a preferred cloud, or they may come with a preferred container orchestration mechanism. That's fine. We're happy to support that and integrate it in the stack and make it work. I think Wayland was going to make a comment in this area. Try one more.
Yeah, and I'll reiterate what Rick said. And the way I like to talk about it is that the unique problem we're trying to solve is that enterprise last mile. So if you're a shop and you're happy with lock-in and you're happy with a single monolithic technology stack, then complexity maybe isn't the problem you have. But a lot of our customers have a complex world that they have to live in. That's multi-cloud, it's hybrid cloud, public and private, because they have a lot of legacy that they have to bring forward with them. I mean, that's the reality of a lot of our customers. And so the opportunity we see is that there's nobody solving that last mile problem. That last mile problem is around choice. It's around a heterogeneous technology stack environment. And if you kind of break down what composability is allowing you to simplify the management of all of those disparate technologies that the enterprise has to struggle with. And that's where OneSphere as kind of the tip of the spear, but not the entire solution. So if you look at Composable Cloud and what we're announcing, the real kind of genesis of that is the integration of a lot of these technologies that we historically have brought to market as separate individual items are now being integrated together. So Rick talked about bare metal as a service. What bare metal as a service is it's OneSphere being able to provide a solution for bare metal, but it's taking advantage of composability. So with Synergy, what we can do is we can take what looks like a virtual machine from the user perspective, but is really a physical machine. And that physical machine is defined by an OS plan. It's defined by a network configuration. It's defined by how to set up the BIOS and the hardware. And you can treat that like a virtual machine. Virtual machine meaning that it's provisioned to somebody who owns that for a particular time period defined by a lease. It's got cost models associated with it that can be charged back to the line of business. So completing that whole story is a OneSphere delivered feature, but it takes advantage of composability and synergy. And so you see all of these integrations happening, and that's where Composable Cloud really becomes powerful. It's not just an individual, piece part solution, but it's an entire solution for the customer.
Is it fair to say that the more unpredictability, the more churn, the more change in the overall cloud and even IT market, then the more valuable or essential something like an open composable approach is.
Yeah,
For sure. It's more than fair to say it is our strategy.
Yeah.
Yep.
To the right. All right, to the right. So, Kevin Jackson, Cloud Musings. The industry is finally realizing that hybrid cloud is and always has been the way to go. It's very good to see the broad marketplace, the composable cloud, and even the fact that you say, look, we will do it for you. We'll come in and help you. Because in the end, digital transformation is really about leveraging cloud, multi-cloud as a platform. So my question is, if you're going to be delivering this solution and you have composable cloud, how do you help the client analyze these multiple cloud platforms in order to put the right workload on them? And since change is natural, is inevitable, how do you monitor that? And I'm not looking for, we have the best brains and the best methodology. What tools come with composable cloud in order to actually manage this composable hybrid cloud?
Yeah, so I'll make a few comments strategically, and then I'll have Wayland talk even a little bit about some of the tools, the specific, visibility you get with OneSphere and some of those capabilities. So this whole advise on where things should land, we talk about that as the right mix. And I think often people, they hear us say, hey, we can help you with the right mix. And they think that we're going to do a study and come back and say, you should be 39% public cloud and the other of that, it's late at night, 51% private cloud. So that's not what actually we do. We actually believe that the right mix is actually a dynamic kind of thing. And it kind of depends what workloads are running, what's running at a given time. It also depends on do I have extra capacity currently in my private cloud that could be utilized for free, right? Or do I have spot capacity available on one of my public cloud vendors that's at a super cheap price? So then my mix might change. Hey, move some of that stuff there. So I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, and that is the more visibility we can provide to customers and the more control and the more simplicity of moving things around, the better. We definitely advise our customers that are adopting public cloud in a big way to do it in a way that is savvy about the desire to want to move some things around later, whether it's on and off-prem or whether it's between clouds. So do it in a container-focused way that's portable, not just stuck into some specific API set and therefore fixed into one specific public cloud. So that's kind of the comment on that mix. You asked about advising. I don't think we could be credible as a company if we said, look, we'll help you with your hybrid cloud, but we have no idea on how to help you with the public part of that. Then it's not hybrid. And so we made a couple key acquisitions that I mentioned earlier to get that expertise. CTP, Cloud Technology Partners, one of the top companies doing Amazon cloud migrations with and for customers, and then Red Pixie, one of the top doing Microsoft Azure migrations for and with customers. So that expertise has really helped us, and when we acquired both of those, it's interesting. Their main job at that point was help people get on Amazon, help people get on Azure. But we realized, hey, you know what? You have a lot of knowledge in that part of it. You also know that as you were trying to help people get onto public cloud, there were things that didn't fit well there. And, they have some rules of thumb on these are the applications that should move. These are the ones that should lift and shift. These are the ones that should be rewritten. These are the ones that should never move. These are the ones that could run in both. And that kind of knowledge was super key to us, not only formulating the strategy, but having the credibility with customers to be able to say, look, we're just here to help you. If you want it all there as much as possible, we'll help you do that. If you want it to be optimized across on and off, we can help you do that. We have the technology, we have the advice, we have the people to be able to do that thing. And that's really what we're doing with those resources. But then you ask the question about what tools do we have that helps with that, advising that journey. And I'll let Wayland talk about the specifics.
Yeah, cloud management assessment tool or cloud management assessment platform.
Yeah, so the first problem you have to solve is you have to have the insight into what your cost is and where your cost is coming from. So OneSphere gives you a whole set of features that we call insights. And what's unique about that is that if you're only an AWS shop, you can use cloud native tools to get costs from your cloud. But if you're a multi-cloud and a hybrid cloud environment, to have one tool that gives you cost across your entire estate. So your costs, surfaced for your Azure public cloud usage, for your AWS public cloud usage, your GCP, and your Synergy private cloud or your, rack mount private cloud, and see that all contextualized for each of the individual businesses you have. That's what OneSphere can give you. Give you that cost and that cost breakdown by project team, by resource usage, across all your clouds, and see that on a real-time basis. So that's the first thing that we provide. The second is the ability to apply policy to be able to identify where cost might be optimized. So policy might be things like looking across your estate and saying, where do I have virtual machines that are on average less than 5% CPU utilization for the last 60 days. And that's a good proxy for where cost may be a place that you might be able to optimize. It might be, stranded virtual machines running in a public cloud. It might be underutilized resources in your private cloud. And it gives the IT organization and the line of business tools that allow them to optimize where their spend is. And that policy can be customized. So you can, write your own rules to say, do I have an ELB in AWS that doesn't have any instances attached to it? Yeah. That's another proxy for, costs that you can potentially optimize out.
So a quick follow-up.
Yep.
Everything you've mentioned is a rear view mirror. I've already wasted that money and I'm trying to stop wasting money.
Yep.
I'm looking for a headlight.
Yep.
Which one should I go to before I waste the money?
Yeah. And
that's what I'm looking for.
Yep. And these aren't features that we're shipping today, but these are on our roadmap. So being able to do what we call RI Advisor, which is essentially a way to model your application. So you could take like a Terraform template, for example, and say for this Terraform template that models essentially an application, if I were to run this in Azure, or I were to run this in AWS, or I were to run this on a VMware private cloud, what would my relative costs be? And allow you to be able to broker essentially where that workload would run best. We don't have that functionality today, but that is something we're actively working on. That's going to be on our roadmap.
One more comment I'll make in that, and Wayland's talking about kind of the high-level feature in OneSphere. The evolution of InfoSight, which kind of today is a little more focused on remediation, predicting challenges and problems that would come up in your infrastructure, watching bit rates that could indicate a failure coming. It's been more focused in that arena, but we're enhancing the definition of InfoSight to include a lot more of AI ops. And under that umbrella is basically looking at your stack and kind of describing how are things deployed and are they deployed kind of in an optimal way. And, I think people have talked about this. I know DSIM was one of those in the past, et cetera, but those were all very rule-based, look at my infrastructure and advise me on ways I could deploy things better. What we're looking at is a lot more of a machine learning thing where the aggregate of all of the platforms that we have on Composable Cloud are feeding information in, and then we can look and say, hey, for these type of deployments, here's the efficiencies we're seeing between them, and then provide that advice back out on, here's a better way to set up your infrastructure to get the best support. Perhaps you need some more composable fabric into the system to optimize, because here's where you're having a bottleneck, or maybe your storage balance is wrong. Luckily, it's composable. You just add more and it appears in the pool, and you can dynamically adjust for that. So that's kind of how we see predictiveness going in the future, is a little less focused on just errors and predicting and mitigating those, and a lot more focused on optimization, if you will.
Yeah, and to get back to the workload optimization conversation, when I talked about it being a roadmap for OneSphere, for our Point Next organization, so the people part of people, technology, and economics, we have replatforming services where we'll come in and we'll provide that kind of expertise to help our customers replatform, recommend, and there are tools that they bring to those engagements, a tool called Aura that does a lot of this modeling for customers. And so, the very typical customer will have, say, 1,500 applications, of which 200 of them are targets for replatforming. They want to get advice on not only how do I replatform, but what's the best cloud to be able to host this particular application. And our Point Next organization provides those services that allow you to do that replatforming, and that's another area that we can help our customers through the journey.
Hi.
To the right.
Yeah. Test. Okay. When I check the news announcements, there's a lot of composability in there. So there is a composable fabric, composable cloud, and so on. First of all, composable fabric. So that's with Plexi, right? So because with the fabric, you had it already in Synergy, but that was Virtual Connect based, which was HPE or is HPE. Now with the rack server, so that's DL380, it's coming to SimpliVity first. Should I see it as well coming to other servers? So a traditional DL380 or
so if
only
a customer,
SimpliVity?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. If a customer wants to buy the composable fabric alone, just the switch kind of thing, not the composable cloud with the management and that kind of thing, they can do that as well. And we offer that as a solution. And pretty excited about the potential there. Similarly, if they want to just buy OneView with our servers, we'll sell them OneView. Similarly, if they want to buy an InfoSight with our servers, we'll sell them that. So you can disaggregate the stack in any way, shape, or form. We also announced we're offering composable fabric with SimpliVity. SimpliVity is not quite truly composable yet. It's like the other hyperconverged offerings in the industry that's really VM focused, tight integration coupled with VM, and then the storage that's kind of a scale out storage underneath that. All of that isn't now managed and flexible and dynamic like we can do in the composable infrastructures, but there are customers who buy SimpliVity who say, hey, when I've got more than 8 nodes of scalability and I need to put multiple installations in, and the network's difficult for me, it's not optimized, it's not dynamic, I'd like to add composable fabric with that. So we also announced as part of all of this that we will ship composable fabric with SimpliVity available now. The composable cloud, the more the bigger solution that has more of the components is it's announced and ships in February. So whatever a customer wants, we can give them that set of capabilities.
Because now, so we have composable fabric with Plexi on the rack servers. What with Synergy? Because with Synergy, okay, there is OneView that cannot manage that network, but it would make sense that Plexi or whatever composable fabric, that code, comes into Synergy as well.
It would make a lot of sense for that, and we plan to do exactly that. We just haven't done it quite yet. We're focused on shipping composable rack. Synergy has what it needs for now, but over time, the two composable fabric stacks will come together.
Because technically, OneView, that's Synergy, but composable fabric with Plexi, that's Plexi code, and now it is in the SimpliVity code, but then I have 2 management platforms because SimpliVity is not yet in OneView.
Correct. SimpliVity is not yet. in one
That's
view,
it.
so that's
Yeah.
very important. But you're exactly right. But one view does control composable fabric. That's how we put it into the composable value proposition. That's how we did composable cloud. One view also controls it's not virtual connect, but it's kind of the evolution of what that was originally in Blades. It's interesting, the Plexi and the virtual connect value propositions and implementation techniques aren't really that different. Plexi did a lot more around flat dynamic network optimization because it was in an unconstrained environment, where with Synergy it's in a constrained environment. It's in a chassis. We know exactly how many nodes can be in that chassis. We know exactly how many chassis are going to connect together and what the topology is going to be when they connect together. Plexi needed to be a little more of a broad solution for heterogeneous more environments. And so it's a superset of the functionality that we have in Synergy. Synergy still is fantastic for its solution, but over time we'll bring those two stacks together and it'll be one composable fabric thing. They're not that different today, and they'll come to be as one in the not very distant future.
And then about the composable cloud, because it will be available then in February.
Yeah.
How should I see composable cloud? Is it then really one sphere connecting to on-premise and public cloud, or is it going further than that?
You should see composable cloud as a collection of things. It's the composable fabric kind of that we just talked about. It's InfoSight under OneView control as well. OneView itself, all connected to one sphere, so you have a SaaS portal where you can get at your public and private cloud all together. If a customer doesn't want one of those specific pieces of the value proposition, they can get it without that specific piece. But most customers, just like when they signed up for Composable Synergy, which was more of an appliance approach, Composable Cloud's less of an appliance, more a services capability kind of approach, but the technology is similar between the two, and we'll ship it to them however they want it. If they want us to bundle it together and charge them almost like an appliance, we're happy to do that. If they want us to give it to them in a subscription kind of model, we've got that capability as well, or pay-per-use, pay for functionality, pay for service. We do that as well for customers.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello. As I try to synthesize all of this, the AI ops, the GreenLake Flex purchasing, OneSphere, and optimizing multi-cloud choice, it seems to me that we're sort of on the cusp of an entirely new way of consuming and procuring IT. That in just a couple of years, rather than myself as an enterprise trying to do all this, I might say, gee, is there an entity out there that does AI ops better than anybody else, or that has the machine learning data trail to be able to decide the best place at any given time under circumstances for my workloads, my apps, my data? And can I just procure that through a simple bronze, silver, or gold plan, and that they will guarantee with KPIs or 6 nines or whatever it is, that I'm going to have all my apps supported, and I'm going to have data backup and recovery, and I'm going to have the best storage performance for my analytics. By using the word economics now prominently in your 6 buckets, is that kind of where you're going? Is that where the industry's headed?
It definitely seems like where a lot of the industry's headed. Depends where you're at. I think we're at the very beginning of that, but I think if you look at the growth rate of our GreenLake business, which is phenomenal, which is our true as-a-service business, all the way from backup as a service to HANA as a service, Hadoop as a service, now hybrid cloud as a service with GreenLake Hybrid Cloud. The way we see that growing, customers are getting a lot more mentally aligned with, rather than I'm going to buy a pile of CapEx infrastructure kind of stuff, I want to pay for this capability or this service, and I want you to just charge me for that. And so we see that as a big area of growth. But I think we're in the early waves of that. The majority of the enterprises aren't quite there yet, but we're excited about it, and we're making sure that as we deliver things like Composable Cloud, they're extremely suited well for delivering those things as a service.
Yeah, and I think you hit it right on the head. I mean, we're moving to a consumption model for the enterprise, where everything can be consumed like a cloud service. And so if you think about where OneSphere is going to go. OneSphere by itself is not interesting, but OneSphere is a portal to centralize billing and to centralize a place where IT can order services and then provide those services through OneSphere, and OneSphere delivers the stack that IT is asking for and can bill them on a consumption basis. That's really where the vision of this whole thing is going.
So this was about 15 years ago that a gentleman, Carr, I forget his first name, wrote a book called The Big Switch. Got a lot of attention. And the idea was to switch from on-premises to off-premises. But I think that was greatly oversimplified. I think the new best title would be The Big Arbitrage.
I think that is a good title. I think where something is located has been made a big deal of in the last, say, 3 to 5 years. I think that's going to be, it'll be a lot more like blade versus rack in the future, which is, who cares? It's on-prem, it's off-prem. I want a cloud experience. I want a simple portal. I want APIs that I can access the infrastructure. Some things might be cheaper for me to do on-prem. Some things might be cheaper for me to do on-prem. I don't really care. I want a consistent experience. You'll hear us say all over the place what we've been saying for a long time now. Cloud is not a destination; it's an experience. We firmly believe that, and where things are is going to become less and less relevant. And if you take that to kind of the next generation of technologies with photonics and persistent memory, or whatever, then location really doesn't matter. You have low latency, high bandwidth, even if you're composing infrastructure across data centers, across the world, across the globe. Who cares where it is? I'm just buying capability, and that's kind of a direction that we're headed. So, yep, probably one more. I have to get to another thing as well. Oh, I made you.
I had a really good question.
I have a question.
Oh, you got in. You got in
So
the gap.
HPE Edge, how do you see that the OneSphere managing the Edge?
Sorry.
OneSphere managing what?
Edge.
Oh, Edge. Thank you. So you'll hear us talk today in the general session, if you're there, about the edge to cloud strategy. And we definitely have this view of the edge really looks like another cloud. It's different because it has a lot more small compute elements and data aggregation that needs to happen, but there's a whole lot of compute that needs to happen at the edge because all that data can't really come into the core. And so we do believe and are thinking about a future where OneSphere looks at edge chunks as mini clouds and need a lot of the same management, need the same ability to automate, how you deploy that cloud, how you do application updates. Which reminds me, we didn't talk a lot here about, and I should mention that. I'll talk about that in a second. But anyway, we absolutely kind of think of OneSphere to the edge. The part I was going to mention, the whole topic of the edge, is really around developers and kind of the environment. We think supporting developers and DevOps is really core to making all of this stuff happen. I'm surprised you guys didn't even ask me about that, but it's a big portion of my spotlight session tomorrow is devoted to not just how we're enabling developers with our OneSphere technologies as well as Composable Cloud, but even, we now, a couple of our our largest attendance things at the conference here will be something we call the Hack Shack, which is where we have developers come in and compete on whether it's DevOps things, setting up some infrastructure, or whether it's an application development kind of thing that deploys in a hybrid cloud kind of way. Really strong presence there, as well as some of our hands-on experience sessions around OneView and OneSphere. Those typically, when we get the results at the end of card scans and things like that, they're the biggest attended things at Discover. And I know I pivoted there a little bit, but we kind of see a future where this whole application development at the edge is going to need assistance and an environment and a kind of a safe space to develop things that are meant for on and off-prem in the edge. And we see kind of the future of our OneSphere developer platform kind of growing in that area. So maybe some comments on the edge and developers.
Yeah, I'll touch on the DevOps side of things. when we talk about cloud experience, the thing that cloud brought that revolutionized infrastructure management is the APIs, because that allowed developers to automate everything that they do. And that's exactly what we're doing with all of our products and trying to bring that API experience to physical infrastructure. So if you look at composability, you look at OneView, it's really about unlocking all of the automation capabilities through APIs. And so, the Hack Shack is one of those places where we're bringing a lot of the developer community through our developer portal and trying to build out a lot of community that will build infrastructure automation around our APIs. And then, touching on the edge, absolutely, I think Gartner predicts that 75% of all the data collected will remain at the edge, will never land at a data center or a public cloud. So there's a lot of data being collected that needs to be processed at the edge, whether that's AI models that are executed at the edge, or whether that's data that's distilled down into insights at the edge before they make it to the core. And so that intelligence and being able to manage what looks like small private clouds at the edge is paramount. And that's where OneSphere can really help with a lot of the automation and simplification. And that's also where Aruba fits in, because Aruba is more than just campus mobility and networking. It's really around intelligence at the edge. So, Aruba does things like asset management and identifying location awareness and being able to facilitate mobility. So, bringing more of that intelligent behavior to edge devices and then tying that into our Aruba business is really the big opportunity for us.
All right.
It's probably a yes/no thing. Composable fabric, so you need those plexi switches. HPE has a lot of other switches, like Aruba and Arista and whatever H3C boxes. Will you see that code of plexi also coming to the other HPE switches? Because now if a customer says, I want composable fabric, I need those physical switches.
It certainly is portable, and we're not trying to over-associate the software with specific switches, but most customers say, hey, the easiest way to consume this is give me that together. I don't see us trying to do a broad, transform all of networking. I mean, this has a specific space that it works extremely well. It's cloud-style networking. It's very flat, rack-to-rack, high-bandwidth communication kind of thing. So it's not trying to compete with a core switching architecture, or any of that, or even honestly our Aruba wireless backbone kind of thing. So, but would we ship it on other switch flavors than the one that we have it on today? Sure, no problem. I mean, it's the software's where the value is, not in the switch itself. So, okay. All right. I want to thank you all for attending Discover. I want to thank you for this session. It's always really, hopefully useful for you. I know it's useful for us because it kind of lets us know where your heads are at and what you're thinking. And enjoy the rest of the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you.